talking about student loans, getting people free of debt, and navigating kind of college, post college, hopefully getting into the other life stages, which doesn't always happen. If maybe you didn't have the best information, or went to one of those really scuzzy for-profit colleges or whatever it was. Now that we're actually live here, my name is Seth Tower Hurd. I am basically an internet human being. He's Drew Dudas. He's the guy that came up with the idea. And then joining us is Craig Dunham, who is, I described him in the video as a former headmaster / quantum computing professional, which we kind of already talked about. So if you missed that, you'll have to just kind of go back after the live video. If we can go ahead and jump in, Craig, actually, because I kind of wanted to start here. We both come from essentially an agricultural county that if you showed academic success, it was like right off the bat, oh, well, you'd better go to college. And if you go to college, unfortunately, you're not coming back for the most part, which is definitely a bummer. What was your narrative like that? Did anybody talk to you about the cost of college, about paying it back, or was it just like, hey, this is the thing to go do if you'd shown some academic success?
Yeah, it was the thing to do, and this was kind of understood, and in some ways it was this idea of you're really successful because you're getting out, in the sense that you're going to another school, or you're continuing your education, and that was that's kind of what I grew up with. There was very little to no discussion from anybody with regard to what it's going to cost. The worth ratio, is the amount of money spent really worth what the return on it could be? None of that at all. And so and I didn't work during school. My parents wanted me to focus on school, which at the time I thought, okay, that makes sense and I can do that. But I graduated from the University of Missouri in 1993 with $30,000 worth of school debt. And it was at that point that I realized, boy, I sure wish I would have maybe done some things a little differently, or had some different conversations with folks.
Yeah. And you were a journalism major, right?
I started out as a journalism major at Mizzou. They think fairly highly of their J-School program. And so I met the requirements, but I wasn't the 4.0 student. So about the third time that I got rejected from the J School, I just went to my advisor and said, look, I want to graduate in 4 years. What can I take that in the next year and a half that can give me a diploma? So I graduated with a coveted geography degree. And so I could read a map like nobody's business, and I have a history minor. But as we like to say in the geography department, geography, it's everywhere. So
Nice.
You got to take pride in the little things,
right?
So I'm trying.
Now I graduated.
No, go ahead, Drew. Go for it. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, so I graduated, Craig, in 1993 as well, and
okay.
You mentioned you had about 30 grand of student loan debt. I was the same. I had about $40,000 worth of student loan debt, but my first job out of college, I made 30 grand, which was for me a great living at that time.
Sure.
So it wasn't an issue. I'm like, I didn't care about student debt because I could manage it into what I was doing at that particular time. It wasn't this insurmountable peak that I had to overcome to have a normal life. I had a normal life, and I threw a couple $100 to the loan because that's what I did, and it was no issue.
Right. Well, and I did the same thing. I mean, obviously, 6 months after graduating, they expect to see a check show up. The difference is I wasn't making $30,000 right out of college, because I graduated, went on staff basically with a Christian organization as a missionary.
Right.
And so I was raising my own support for 12 years. Those first 12 years after graduation, I was raising support, which there's not, I mean, it was, I think I can't remember what my first paycheck was, but it was pretty minuscule. And
Right.
I think that was one of the things that, as I look back, and I have no regrets of what I did or how or anything like that, but I think that was something that really set me back financially, in terms of being able to not only plan but also save. And I mean,
Right.
it was very, very hand to mouth for years and years
Sure.
and years.
Right.
Even when I got married, we had kids. We were dealing with that for the better part of easily 15 years.
Yeah.
Now, when you raise funds as a missionary, are there restrictions for what you can use those funds for? I mean, if you do have a student loan you're trying to pay off,
Mhm.
are you able then to apply those funds or that paycheck to those student loans? I mean, can you say, hey, I need
Sure.
$1,000 a month to live, and include a portion of that in your student loan, or is that not allowed? Or
No, it's allowed.
Okay.
Basically, it's the idea that you're raising your salary. So
Right.
the joke at the time was, when you're raising your salary, you can always give yourself a raise.
Just pick up the phone and call more people, right?
Right. It doesn't quite work that easily, but but so you're raising your salary. People are giving to the organization. The organization takes a small administrative fee and then pays you your salary in that regard. But at the time, and some of the laws have changed since then in terms of the way all that's functioned. I haven't kept up with it, but at the time, if you didn't if you didn't meet a certain criteria within, across a certain number of months, you had to pull back from what you were doing and just spend time fundraising, because you were in danger. The organization was saying, we're trying to help you, and in not being in danger of going into further debt or barely making it by.
And asking people for money is always a great time. Who doesn't love to do that?
That's a real kick in the head, let me tell you. And we did it because we believed in what we were doing. And,
Absolutely.
And we did our best, and people were faithful and generous. And like you said, the first 12 years of post college, that's what we were doing. But we weren't making a whole lot of progress on loan payment, repayment. We were barely making the minimum payments and able to do that, let alone trying to double or triple up and get out of it earlier.
Yeah. Now, I want to go back to the kind of the mentality through this, because and people can get mad at me, and people who like Dave Ramsey like being mad about things. Sorry. But the idea that you should never, borrow money for school, that's just not something I'm going to sign off on. I would say have a plan, know what kind of salary you can make coming out, know, essentially where your life is going, and then make a wise decision. And I can say that now, but, a lot of people, including myself, kind of find themselves in, a situation either through a variety of different life circumstances where, it's, too little too late to do anything about that. So when you were going through school, you kind of thought journalism, then you became a geography major so you could get out with a degree. And again, you are quite literally the shining example of kind of our, not hometown, but home county area, because you went off to a reputable state school and you're doing well in life, right? Did you know what you wanted to do or where you wanted to go? I mean, you're racking up loans to major in geography. Did you know where you're going? Or did this feel like something you're going to have to pay back? Did anybody say geography isn't the best paying career? Is geography a career?
It is. Well, at least that's what I was told. My parents probably wondered. I think they recognized that so much of what I was going to school for. The reason I went to the journalism program itself was the only thing that I felt like I could do and do well was to write. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to start there. And I've used that all throughout life. There's no question. But when I changed to geography with history, it's a good, I mean, those are good subjects to learn a lot about the world. And so I don't regret that at all. But from a perspective of, okay, what do you do as a professional geographer? And this was right when the whole GPS thing was coming in too. So this was like, we were still drawing maps by hand. There was some CAD stuff going on, but then there were these 3 letters that people kept talking about, GPS, that was going to completely change everything that we were doing. And so even though I went to college and graduated with this geography degree, who knows how much of it, if I were going to go into geography itself, was actually going to be applicable, because the technology completely shifted. So I didn't have an idea, certainly with geography, what I was going to do. I think my folks and I, we realized that the interests and the things that I was gifted at, or really wanted to give myself to, they didn't necessarily require a geography degree or a history degree. But like I said, I'd started it and I felt like I needed to finish it to be faithful. But to give you an example, a counterexample, like I have 4 daughters. My oldest is, she's got basically less than a year left here at Montana State in town. My second daughter she did her first year at Montana State as well. But then she said, Dad, I don't know what I really want to do. And it just doesn't seem to make sense to be able to continue taking these classes and going to school when I really don't know what I want to do. And so she took a year off, and we were fine with that. But again, we've kind of seen the cracks of what's going on the college campuses. We've seen the cracks, not only in terms of being in education, but paying attention to, what is or isn't happening in terms of people coming out of college and really being equipped to live life, because our society has so gotten to this point of you have to specialize so early and figure out what you want to do. And it's all about job training from the very beginning. We're not teaching people, we're not forming people, which is what education used to be all about. So that regardless of what you were trying to do later on, you as a person, you knew how to teach yourself, you knew how to learn, you had lots of different broad experiences. And that's just not the message that's being sent today, even at the high school, even at the junior high level.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Tyler.
No, I was going to say, I'm going to throw both my generation and your alma mater under the bus for a minute. I can see that in the professional world right now, that I saw a couple of Mizzou grads come out of, straight out of school, and, and then saw some interns and that type of thing from a couple other schools. And after all that money, I'm not seeing, 22, 23-year-olds really be that prepared for the working world, which that's a lot of money to spend to then have to be handheld on the job, to get all the way through it. And it's also pretty scary if you find out you spent all that money and you got to be handheld through the job to be able to hang in there and, and to be okay. Mm-hmm. So that's not good. The other thing I would say that, that I think that at least millennials were told that is not a good idea is college is not the place to go find yourself and figure it out necessarily. You need to be there because you're going somewhere and because this is an aid to you. And there's a lot of really good things about it. But it can very easily stretch into 5.5 years if you're just exploring a career at a very high interest rate, if you will, as far as what you got to pay back. And so that's where I'm not. I mean, I think that borrowing to earn more money is a pretty smart thing in the long run. Borrowing to figure out who you are is crushing, and maybe that's a good place to turn the corner into your work as a headmaster, sort of in more classical schools, and talk about how we do that in the United States, because I do feel like that's the message I got. It's like, oh, we'll go, learn things or whatever. Just go to school, get out of here. You're a senior. We need you to go away. We look better if more people go to college. So I'm going to look better if you go borrow money. So I'm your high school teacher, guidance counselor, principal, whatever. Go over there, borrow money, and figure out something for you to do for you. And then, good luck on the debt as you figure it out. Reaction?
Well, I think let me finish the story of my second daughter, because I think it's what you're talking about, in that she knew that she wasn't sure what she wanted to do, and she didn't want to spend money to continue to pay for the privilege of not knowing. And so she said, I'm going to take a year off And I said, that's great. What are you going to do? And we kind of sat down and talked through it. And she'd been working at one of the coffee shops, which is a real there's 2 coffee shops owned by the same family here in town, and it's a favorite. I said, if you're going to work there and you're going to do this full time, then learn the business. Learn what a business requires. And she now manages both stores, and she's taken up she's taking classes online through New Hampshire University, and it's much more along the lines of marketing and business and those kinds of things, because she's had the experience where she can see it now be helpful for what she could do, but also who she is and how she's growing into that. And I think that idea of a gap year or an internship, or just not rushing our kids into college where the first question they want you to do or to answer is what's your major going to be? Well, how fair is that to a kid who's 18 years old who doesn't know beans about anything?
Yeah. Right.
And it's I was no different, and you were no different. And it's just, we're accelerating the process so much that it just doesn't make sense for the development of the person and who they are to be able to do a lot of different things.
I have I know of a person who is graduating this spring with an undergraduate degree, and his biggest struggle in school was that he didn't know what he wanted to do, and he took a semester off. But I mean, the mental strain or the mental anxiety,
the pressure,
and the mental stress, and depression that brought, where he was he felt like he was alone at school because other people are going about their education, and in his mind, they know full well what they want to do. They're focused, laser focused on a goal, and they know they want to be an accountant, or they know they want to be a civil engineer. He didn't have any of that. He didn't really have any passions, and that caused him just a tremendous amount of depression, such that he needed to take a semester off, come home, and really reset himself and go through a lot of work to be okay with the fact that, you know what, I don't know what I want to do. And so it's different for everybody.
Sure.
But that pressure, like you say, can be a real killer. And like you say, Tower, it can cost. You can be paying for that monetarily for many, many years afterwards.
Yeah, and we'll if you're just checking out these Thursday night hangouts we do, we'll get to the solution that we're building, and you're going to see the development of a website, the beginning of a website here in the next couple of weeks, which is pretty exciting. But as we break down essentially this situation of how do we, how do people wind up in such crushing student loan debt, and then what do we do about it? We don't just want to see people get out of debt now. We want to see the system, not burn down. We just want to see it work better. And the unpopular thing that I believe that I think a lot of people don't want to hear is that the high school to college transition thing, there's a lot of pressure to just go borrow money and figure it out. And I wish I would have been shown some other options. I am a pretty academic person. I did grad school twice for free. I've taught in the college system. It's been pretty good all the way across the board. As far as me and academia, I really enjoyed it. I really wish I would have taken a year off and just gone and worked on a barge in the Mississippi River, or worked. I didn't know there was a thing called the Merchant Marines where you could just go be a sailor. Still, like I don't know if I thought boats drove themselves or whatever. But even though I'm very academic and would have probably gone the same route,
you do look like a Merchant Marine person, though. You've got the look, right? I mean, whether you realize it or not, yeah, I could see that. Get you a pipe or something and a pea coat. I get it.
Another local reference. Drew, do you remember when they were filming the Fox TV show Prison Break in Joliet?
I do, yes. Not intimately, but I remember the show, sure.
For wherever you're at internet land, it's a suburb of Chicago. It's where Drew and I met, and he still lives up there. A friend of mine was a character that had speaking lines on it and everything, and he was trying to get me as an extra. And he said the producers would love you like as a con. He's like, you have the
Right.
look.
Well, like I'm looking at you and you're like, you know, for that show, you're like in the credits, you're stevedore number 2. Right?
I just thought that was the weirdest compliment I'd ever received. Was like, you totally look like a hardened criminal, so
Yeah.
you might be able to make like, you know, 45
I was going to say Kaiser Soze, but
Right. So
you know, so Craig, you know, you spoke to that as a parent, but what about in the school system in general? Maybe not necessarily the one you ran, but you were around education for, you know, a good chunk of your career. Do you think there's validity in what I'm saying? Like we push kids out the door into college that maybe, you know, would be better off going in a couple years and getting some life experience or something, because it's a measure of high school's outcomes, like that they put those high school seniors into college freshmen, and it's something everybody looks at. And then the person who pays the price on that is the person who has to pay the student loan.
Right. Well, unlike you, Seth, I want to see the system burn down. I want to see the whole student loan, scholarship, that whole thing is so, it's unbelievable how much of a racket it is in terms of what schools set for tuition and what loan groups are willing to say, oh, you need that much for school? Well, sure, we'll give that to you, because they know that they're going to get it back, or at least somebody's going to have to try to pay it back. And it's such a racket. So there's a part of me that I would really love to see all of that collapse in and on itself. I don't want to default necessarily just to, okay, everything's online now, because as an educator, I don't feel like that's ideal either. But I do think that you're going to see smaller schools figure out, just because they're going to have to if they're going to survive, they're going to figure out different models of funding and different models of enrollment that are going to be different from what has been par for the course for the last 150 years. And I think that's what I hope happens, is that we really see the bubble burst, and that there's fallout that comes from that, and people kind of pull back the curtain and say, oh, wow, who knew that this was going on? Because it's a complete racket. And it's interesting. One of the things, if I can just, last week in my newsletter, I came across this article. It was from the World Economic Forum, and it was a piece written back in October, and I somehow missed it there. But they had a list of what the top 10 skills of 2025 were going to be. And what's really interesting to me, as a former headmaster of in an independent school, the schools that I led were classical schools, where the emphasis was much more on the development of the person and not just the preparation for a job emphasis. But listen to what these skills are, and just think about how our current system, which is so preoccupied with job training and job preparation, I don't think it's connecting. So here's the list. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Analytical thinking and innovation, active learning and learning strategies, complex problem solving, critical thinking and analysis, creativity, originality, and initiative, leadership and social influence, technology use, okay, there's a connection, monitoring and control, technology design and programming, there's the other one. But then listen to these last two: resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility, and reasoning, problem solving, and ideation. So those are the skills that the World Economic Forum is saying, okay, this is where this is going. And they're saying that because of that, listen to some of these quotes. 50% of all employees will need reskilling, I didn't know that was a word, by 2025. So again, if we're just teaching kids or we're preparing kids for these things that we think they need to get a job, who says that job's going to stick around or stick around in the same form that it's in?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why I have such animosity towards my own generation, but I feel like we're just gonna have to build like premature nursing homes for millennials and just shove them all in there, because if you need resilience, like we're just gonna have to build like snowflake holding facilities and just put them in there and let them Instagram all day. I mean, I don't know what else we're gonna do as a society there.
So that's Stone Beach Partners' second business venture. After this one, I'm gonna write that down. Holy cow! You just
well, and, you know, and we're kind of circling around an idea here. You know, about essentially we're having a conversation about how do you get people good at something so that they can support themselves, their family, and become a productive member of society. You know, I think that one of the things that I look at through all this is without some kind of education, you know, we're from Craig and I come from a pretty rural county without a ton of job options, right? So without some kind of education, I realized that I probably would have been, you know, pretty flat broke my whole life, probably, you know, had I not had something. And then the flip side is, you know, that the trades are a really great option. I feel like we should mention that a lot.
Absolutely.
I'm just not good at them.
Absolutely.
Like I'm good at internet, basically.
Right. And that was the problem for me too, Seth. I mean, the only thing I can do with a tool is lose it. And so you know, but there are such good opportunities, and you've written about this before. There's such good opportunities that if we can help people understand that that there's nobility to them, even if it doesn't require a college degree, even if it doesn't mean that you're sitting in front of a computer. I mean, I don't know. You can make the argument that's hardly noble, right?
Yeah.
You and I do that. But I think that if we can change the perspective and the mindset and help people understand that there are some very great opportunities that someone who is resilient, someone who has taught themselves how to learn, someone who has spent time interning or apprenticing with someone, the discipline of that's formed them as a person. And the more that they're formed like that, I think the doors swing wide open.
Absolutely. I come from an industry where there is just a tremendous, I mean, we would spend whole conferences on how do we get people interested in becoming an HVAC technician, a refrigeration technician. They cannot find people to do that work, not because it's not a good living, because some of these guys a couple years out of school are making $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
As a 20, maybe a 20-year-old, a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
It's amazing, you know, it's amazing money, but there's not, again, the emphasis on, you know, no parent tells their child, unless they may be an HVAC technician themselves,
right?
Hey, go be, you know, what do you want to, you want to reach for the stars? Go be an HVAC and refrigeration technician.
Right.
Yeah. There's guys out there who are half my age making, you know, twice as much money as I'm making now, working a day, working a 40-hour week job.
Oh, I don't know if this is supposed to be public knowledge or not, but some of the senior welders at John Deere, that put combines together, some of these guys are clearing $270,000 on an educational program that took 4 months. To put this back together, just to go back to the high school thing, from an economic standpoint, just high school with nothing else is the same as not going to high school. So you might as well drop out in 8th grade and just kick back until you're 18, and then, you know, from a salary perspective, from a wage perspective, unfortunately, that's true. And unfortunately, I would say that sometimes people go and get a degree in something that's so impractical that essentially their wages are about the same as somebody who just went to high school, except they are crushed under student debt.
Yeah.
And you know, I've met people that majored in opera, which actually, my wife plays opera around the house, and I enjoy it. I don't think there's a whole lot of people there that are making money at that. And so basically, if you go into a job, some kind of job application process, and all you can do is you can sing opera, well, that's worthless. So you're sort of back to being somebody who can earn the same wages as somebody who went to high school, except now you have $300 to $700 monthly payment on your student loan, and that's rough.
Yeah. So, Craig, you mentioned that you would like to see the system burn down, and you'd like to see that bubble burst. How does that happen in your mind? What is the event, or what are the events that precipitate that? Because that's somewhat, in a small way, what we're trying to do here. I think if we take our idea to the nth degree, if we take our idea to infinity, then that's essentially what happens, or at least that's the hope. It won't happen because everything's finite, but what are the events that precipitate that bubble bursting, and that the awakening of, holy cow, this is a racket, or holy cow, this is a terrible idea. How did we get here?
Well, I wondered initially if the pandemic might help some of this, particularly with regard to people being told, okay, we don't want you on campus, but we want you to keep paying as if you're on campus, and we're going to deliver online. I was hoping that there was going to be a mini revolt, a little bit, of people saying, this is not, we're not receiving what we're paying for. I would still argue probably still not, just because of how elevated tuitions are. Colleges purposely they up. It's the classic model of they purposely charge ridiculous amounts as the list price, and then they come in and say, but we're going to give you scholarship. But what happens is that there's a gap for most people, and they get accepted to a school, and a school maybe they think that is the school they want to go to. They can't afford the list price, but even with the scholarship, they can't really afford it with the scholarship, even if the scholarship is something like $30,000-$40,000.
Right.
And so then what that does is, for a family, they look at this and say, we've been given this opportunity, and how cool is it for Junior that he's gotten accepted to the school, just like we all are. And they want to see Junior go to that, but he may be able to go, but it completely wipes out, the first 20 years of his future, because and that's even just trying to cover the bit that is not covered by scholarship. And so it's kind of an evil temptation, I think, or at least an evil testing, where they kind of dangle that and they get you close so that people can imagine going there and they want to, but then the reality is we're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that they don't have.
Right. And to your point, when we talk about going to a marquee school, for example, right? I mean, there's the marketing that the school does, and the name being from the Chicago area. So, if I get a social work degree from the University of Chicago versus getting a social work degree from Governor State University, during that 4 years in school, my parents can tell their friends, and I can tell my friends, hey, I'm going to the University of Chicago. Wow, that's great. Amazing. Wow, you're super bright. But at the end of the day, when it comes time after the graduation to go get that first social work job, whether you went to Governor State or whether you went to University of Chicago, you get to make $25,000 a year. And then the person who went to Governor State doesn't have the student loan debt,
You gotta
that
do
the
now.
person who went to university. Well, okay.
Unfortunately,
So-
no. Unfortunately, that's not the case anymore, because in that, in that case, Governor State decided to be like a 4-year school and build dorms and have sports teams and stuff, so they're expensive.
Okay.
But they're not a University of Chicago or school like that experience. So it's kind of a weird.
But even if it's more money, though, they're not as much as University of Chicago.
I
was
don't
what I'm,
think
right?
so, but they could have been.
So-
they certainly couldn't put you out in the world as a social worker cheaper than they currently are, and that's just because
Of course.
lived up near it and everything.
Of course.
And then you get out, and the question is, what do you do? And unfortunately, what we're seeing here is a lot of people are just delaying life stages, and that's really where the idea for this website came from.
And to be fair, Governor State is a very good school. I'm not disparaging Governor State at all. They have an excellent social work program. But my point is, you can pay 2-3 times for different schools and then get out and still make the same money. And instead of 100,000, you've only got 20,000 to pay
Well, and I
for
think
the same job.
answering your question of, okay, what is it going to take to see the system, for lack of a better phrase, burned down? And again, just in the times we live, let me just say I'm speaking metaphorically. I have neither pitchfork nor torch that I'm getting ready to walk it over to MSU on. But I think part of why, if you look at these colleges, especially your Division I schools, regardless of where they are, whether they're state school or an elite school, whatever, if you look at the amount of money that is spent on the athletic programs, on all of
The
these
recreation center.
Yeah, the recreation. Yeah, the University of Missouri. I remember when this happened. I can't remember what year it was. It was after I graduated, but they were going to redo the rec center, and the big crowning achievement of this was a lazy river that went all the way through.
Are you kidding?
And so here we're spending oodles and oodles of money to put a lazy river in the rec center where you're supposed to be working out. It's stuff like that. But again, it makes for pretty pictures and lots of amenities, and that's what people are paying for.
Yeah,
and I think what you're going to see is people say, I don't want the amenities, I don't want the sports programs, I don't want the lazy river. What I want is a good education, and I want to grow as a person and develop who I am. And that's why I think some of the humanities programs, programs like St. John's College, there's a school I'm familiar with in Houston that is kind of taking away all the distractions that over hundreds, or at least dozens and dozens of years have built up is so important to the Americana collegiate experience. And I think you're going to see people say, I don't want that because I don't want to pay for it now or 20 years from now.
Yeah. And just to put a pin in the map of where I currently live, I'm right next to the University of Missouri St. Louis, which is obviously part of the same system. And they have an unbelievable workout facility that fortunately I'm a member of, that is probably close to like an Olympic level workout facility for the general student population. It's a commuter school and nobody uses it. I mean, there's maybe 400 or 500 kids that live on campus. So they built out this massive, gym, both at the expense of the taxpayer and the person who's borrowing money to be there. And I bet 90% of the students don't ever take a step in outside of the tour, but 100% of the students are paying for something that less than 10% of them use.
Right.
Which is not a good thing. So we talked a good bit about kind of maybe how society can remake itself, but for the people like we said they're out there, Drew, if we always get new people on this, so they're going to see a website here soon. Why are we? You just want to jump in on why we're doing this and
solve the problem, Drew. Come on, no pressure.
Well, I'm a light a candle versus curse the darkness kind of a fella, and maybe my one small contribution to this is this issue is to say, hey, there's a lot of people out there who have bought into that dream, and with the right reasons, with the right motivation, that hey, if I go to school, I can be successful and I can give back to society. I can give back to my fellow man. I can provide a living for my family to to give them the things that maybe I never had. Well, there's a lot of people who bought into that and who have now found who are stuck holding the bag and on the hook for these student loans. So what Tower and I are doing is we are creating a website that is really kind of the foundation of a community, which will include podcasts like this. It'll include a network of people where these people are able then, these folks with this crushing student loan debt are able then to ask for help, give them a vehicle to ask for help and give them, I guess, permission, if you will, to ask for help to pay off their student loans. Give them a vehicle for people to do that, and then give people like me who want to give money, who believe in education, but know that if I hand that check or if I send that payment into my alumni, that is going straight into probably some
lazy
river or some piece of landscaping that a student will probably trample through that on their way when they're late to class. So, I believe in the value of education, but like you say, no lazy rivers. I like that. I love that idea about what the school in Houston is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's an opportunity for us to look at people who have bought into this and say, hey, I've been there. I think I can help. So make a profile, say, hey, this is what I did. This is why I went to school. This is what I'm doing now. This is how much I'm in debt. Can you help me out? And then I can look at your profile and say, you know what? I believe in what you did. I believe in your education. I believe in what you're trying to do. And I understand that the value of your education, you're not necessarily getting back in your job, but you're doing your job for the right reasons. So I'm going to help you out. I'm going to help pay down your student loan debt.
Such a great idea.
Mm-hmm,
it's such a great idea.
So it's not a reverse scholarship, but it's it's a way to help somebody out. That's stuck, that wants to be an adult.
Right.
That wants to do adult things.
Yes.
Yes. I think it's also interesting as well as we are, we're kind of in this new lockdown era. We are all just used to making smaller, kind of payments on things to where like everything kind of just seems to be small bits of money. And people also want to put small bits of money towards something. So instead of, cable, which used to be, I never had it, but it's, $150 a month sometimes. Instead of that, you now have the smorgasbord of, a bajillion different streaming services that are out there and ever expanding. By the way, I just saw, I don't have time to watch it right now, but Amazon Prime, if you're an NBA fan like I am, out of market, you can buy just your team for like $16 a month for the season, which is pretty cool. So we're all kind of used to those, $12 a year, $15 a year type of things.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another option. You're not just signing up for another streaming service that you're probably going to forget about, pay for, and just that money will leak out of your checking account. This is an option to do $15-$20 somewhere to where somebody gets out of a desperate financial situation, gets on with their life, buys a house, gets married, has kids, or some combination of those. Yeah. And when they enter the economy, then like your town gets better because people are actually like spending money, doing stuff, going to restaurants, shopping, becoming a member of society. And we need members of society for the economy to function. So those small payments, this is another place to take that small bit of money and really make a difference in somebody's life.
Little bits of hope. You're giving these people who see like this mountain, like, it's not gonna go away in a day, but if I give you a little bit, if I give you $10, that's a little bit of hope. Mm-hmm. That, if I give you, if somebody else gives me $5, that's a little bit of hope. And, 2 or 3 of those a month, that'll, for me, that would have kept me going. I'm like, hey, this is, there's other people who are invested in me, and, I can do this. We can do this together. Because, again, like I've said, on other shows, like we're Americans, we help. That it's in our DNA. That's what we do. Yeah. And this is another vehicle for us to be able to get that help efficiently and effectively where it's where it's needed. If that's what we're called to do, if that's where our desire to help lies.
And it's easy to get down in such a, the kind of divisively political climate that's been 2020, 2021. People forget one of the very best things you can say about this country is far and away we're the most charitable nation in the world. So let's turn a little bit of that on this thing that you can't bankrupt your way out of. You didn't necessarily know for some people what they were getting into, and has absolutely taken over their lives. And if we all kind of jump in a little bit, we can, see just this soul crushing situation resolve for some folks, and that's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good on you guys. I'm for you, and I'm excited to see what happens, and I hope people will take time just to really hear out those little bits of hope and imagine what they could do in their communities, because this could be completely scalable in so many ways.
Right. And that's, again, that's another aspect of this. Like, okay, well, we'll get this started. There's smarter people out there than me, and they're going to have better ideas. So, let's let them see this. Let's let them apply their ideas to this. And then we kind of get that snowball effect. We get that, again, just take this idea, put your own spin on it. If this works, scale it, do something different. But we can do this together, Yeah. So,
Craig, if I can just maybe have you kind of shout out, because you do some good writing out there. So if you just want to share that, and that's also my passive aggressive way of hoping that you'll, include a YouTube link to this conversation at some point on.
Well,
on
sure, absolutely. I thought that was in the contract that I signed to be on here today. No, I would love it if people wanted. I just started. I kind of picked back up on some weekly writing that I hadn't done for a while. I mean, I've been blogging since 2002 and took a break for 5 or 6 years. And I just started a Substack Letter in January, or at the beginning of this month. And so it's just craigdunham.substack.com, and would love for anybody to subscribe, see what it's about, and more than welcome to be a reader. And it's all free, so just keep in mind you get what you pay for. So.
Well, thanks for hanging with us on this Thursday.
Well, the best
night.
Things in life are free, though, right?
Well, that's what they say. Yeah,
I'm gonna counter you a little bit there.
Yes, you're a candle in the winds, Drew. You're a candle. I'm sitting over here. Not only is the glass half empty, it's also trying to kill me.
Right.
Well, I mean, there's only one of the three of us that have an inspirational pillow in the background.
Well, that's right.
I can't read the whole thing, but it's to the world you are something.
Do you want me to show it to you? There's a little story behind this.
I mean,
I'm not sure I can take it. No,
it's actually got a. So it says, to the world you are a dad, but to your family you are the world. So, actually, this was a Father's Day gift from my son. He picked it out. He picked out like the saying, and then my wife hand painted it on like a pillow or something from IKEA. Oh, and then he wrote on the back, and this is his side, my wife's side. Sorry.
Very nice.
Thanks for noticing.
That's a good sunny note to go out on after, that depressing lazy river thought that seemed to have dominated this conversation. By the way, do you get to go back and use that for free after you spent so many months
as an alum?
Yeah.
I've never tried.
15 years. It seems like I should be able to get to go use it on your behalf, since I'm only an hour away.
It seems like a bunch of people should. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My name is Seth Tower. He's Drew. He's Craig. And two of the three of us will be back next week, and we're going to have a website to show you very soon, so you can get involved in this, either as a person who is, hoping to raise some money to get yourself out of your situation, or as somebody that sees an opportunity to help somebody get free of some crushing student loan debt. So thanks again. You should definitely read Craig's stuff. It's really good. You can also find him on the socials, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And other than that, we'll see you next week.